Today I'm going to be cooking a Boston butt pork roast in the Big Easy Oilless Turkey Fryer. These are supposed to come out really good and I can't wait to try it out. This particular roast is 4.75 pounds and CHAR-BROIL recommends that you cook pork for about 30 minutes per pound. So I'm looking at about 2 hours and 20 minutes, maybe 2.5 hours or something like that. I'm going to stuff the roast with just some garlic and onions and seasoning. And I'll be using my own seasoning blend since it doesn't contain any sugar to burn on the outside of the Boston butt. First, I need to cut my onion. Next, I'm going to be using my really old school Ninja to chop everything up a little finer. I don't want to pulverize it, but I want to break the onions down to really get more flavor out of them. While I should be using some fresh garlic, the fact of the matter is I don't have any, so I'm just going to be using some minced garlic that I keep in the refrigerator for when I don't have any fresh garlic. I don't want to give you any specific proportions for this because I think most people know about how much of any particular ingredient they want to put. I may like it more garlicky than some, or some people may like it a lot more garlicky than me. So I would rather people just know how I did it and then they can adjust each ingredient to their liking. So I'm going to go ahead and add some onion. I might be keeping my refrigerator too cold. I got ice formed on top of my garlic. So I'm fighting the iceberg inside of my jar of garlic, but I think I'm going to put about 3 tablespoons. I'll go ahead and make it 4. Next, I'm going to be using my seasoning blend, and I'm going to put a good amount of this in here simply because I know people get tired of hearing me say this, but it's not going to be too salty and it's not going to be too hot, but it's still going to add a good bit of flavor. Okay, time to mix all this up. So let me check it and see if it's the right consistency. Looks pretty good. I'm going to scoop this back into my bowl just so it's a little easier to get out and stuff it into the Boston butt. I'm thinking hard about cutting this Boston butt in half, which should make it cook faster, but I really want more of that crispier seasoned outside of the meat. So I think I am going to go ahead and cut this in half. Next, I'm going to go ahead and trim off any little nasty bits like that. Okay, I've got it trimmed up. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make some holes to put the stuffing in. I used to have a tool for this, and I used it a good bit, and it ended up breaking, and I never replaced it. So now I do it just the old-fashioned manual way. But I'll just take a knife, stick it in not all the way through, kind of make a plus shape. And I'm going to use an oyster shucker of all things. You can use a handle for a spoon or really anything to fit in there, or just your finger if you want, and just kind of ream that out. And I use this instead of the knife simply because I don't want to push and cut the holes too big. So once I've got a hole inside, I'll take my seasoning blend and just stuff as much as I can in each hole. Of course, you can put as many or as few holes as you want, or as little or as much stuffing as you want. But this really helps to get that flavor deep inside the meat. Sometimes I'm amazed at how much you can actually fit in these holes. And that's another reason to go ahead and try to break down your onions and garlic into smaller pieces, because if you don't, there's a lot of wasted space in there that you could be getting your seasoning into and having additional flavor. So that one's full, so I'll just do the same thing right here. And I'll keep doing this till I have as much seasoning in it as I want. I'm done stuffing the Boston butt, and I used pretty much all of that seasoning. So next I'm going to use some of my seasoning to coat the outside with. You're never going to be able to keep all of the garlic and onions and seasoning blend inside the meat. Don't worry about it. It's just going to add flavor to the outside and help give it that really nice crust. Even though I'm cooking these in the Big Easy oilless fryer, you could just as well cook these in the oven, crock pot, probably even the air fryer. But this is my basic method for stuffing and seasoning pork roast, Boston butts, or anything like that. I don't have any of the foil drip pans for the drip tray, so I'm going to do the same thing I did earlier and just use some aluminum foil to line the pan. I've got the Big Easy heated up, and no, I didn't forget to clean it. I actually just cooked the Thanksgiving turkey in it, so that's what you're seeing right there. These little pans like this make carrying the turkey or Boston butter, whatever you're cooking in these things, really easy. Either bringing it outside or bringing it in after you're done, the turkey's going to be dripping. So these trays with the sides on them really help contain all the juices so you're not dripping it all over your floor. Alright, I'm going to come back in about 2 hours and check it. I almost lost track of the time. It's been 2 hours and 5 minutes. So I'm going to pull this out and check the temperature. Just above 160 for pork. That's good enough for me. I think it's time to go ahead and pull these. Man, that is a beautiful looking crust on the outside of these things. So here's the Boston butt. I brought it in to rest before I take it out of the wire basket. But again, these things just look fabulous. I'm going to let this rest for probably about 15 minutes and cut into them. I'm glad I did go ahead and cut it in half because it did cut down on the cooking time. So it cooked in 2 hours and 5 minutes versus 2 hours and 20 minutes to about 2 hours and 30 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and cut into it and have a look at it. So here's the stuffing inside. You can see it made it pretty deep, but I also stuffed it from not only the top, but from some of the sides also. So this should be really flavorful. And this bark or crust on the outside is just magnificent. So far, I'm really happy with the way the Big Easy Oilless Turkey Fryer cooks both turkeys and Boston butts. It seems like it does something almost magical to keep them crispy on the outside but juicy on the inside. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up and also consider subscribing to the channel. As always, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next video.